We're going live.
Stanford has really good mention.
All right, we're live, folks.
Talk directly into the owl with whatever last comes along.
Who?
It'd be great. Okay, I'm gonna call
Adrian told me he just wants to be slapped around.
9:20 a.m. We're called to order, 9:20 a.m. First item on the agenda today is opportunity for public comment. Do we have any members of the public here who wish to give public comment? Going once, going twice. Do we have any LNC members who wish to give public comment? Going once, going twice. Okay, hearing none. Next item on our agenda is new business with previous notice, and it is staff report, I believe, and then it's going to be special counsel report.
The policy manual.
Who's right after?
Oh, I thought it said here, it said it's 9:30.
Well, he's
No, but he said he's available 9:30 Pacific.
oh, Pacific time.
Yeah, he's available between 9:30 and 10:30 Pacific time,
That's fine.
which he said was between 12:30 and 1:30 Eastern. Pretty sure that was his part.
That's
That's in like 10.
That's 10 minutes.
Oh, I don't know. I told him.
Okay, so we're gonna pull Brian Floyd's up, and then we'll, figure it out.
Get some stand-up at the
Brian,
LNC
you have a
meeting.
laptop, you have a-
Yeah. What's the deal with the airplane?
Okay.
But he can really. He said 9:30 to 10:30 Pacific. He said 9:30 to 10:30 Pacific. Yeah. Okay, you know the curvature of the earth do not get along.
It's all right.
Functional flutter.
What else am I gonna
Let's
do?
pull up, Brian's, presentation. So, can you give us just a rundown of what we are doing?
Yes, most definitely. So, hey, everybody, you'll remember me from yelling at you last night. I'm Brian Williams. I'm the new communications director for the party. And as such, one of the things that I really wanted to do is bring a slightly different vision for how we communicate our message to the public, as well as some new concepts, some new ideas for how we can make life a little bit easier for our candidates, some evergreen assets. So I'm just going to run through my basic core concept here, some of the strengths and weaknesses that I feel the party has, and then we'll get into the shift that I'd like to see in some of our messaging and put into place. So at its core, what I'm trying to do here is take what we have, the platform that we have, the principles that we have, and without diluting that message in any way, because it's been highly effective. And we've seen that through the Twitter feed. Dave's done a fantastic job with Twitter, by the way. Consistently grows, high interaction, consistently growing that platform. But at the same time, we want to take those principles and layer on top of them what I call a mythology. Essentially what this is kind of like a Mary Poppins style spoonful of sugar to help the medicine go down. Because a lot of what we talk about comes down to eradicating the government, eradicating programs. We talk about things that are essentially going to be removing people's income at times, changing the way in which they understand the world. This can be very, very scary to people. Obviously, it's going to be upsetting. So we need to give them something that's not just going to be, hey, we're tearing down. We have to communicate that we are builders, that we are going to give them something greater than what they have today. So that's what I call the mythology here. A positive and presumptive outlook for the future. Now, not only this is going to make it a little bit easier for the people that have taken umbrage with some of the party, separatists the Mises Caucus took over. We have had some pushback from members from various other caucuses that have taken umbrage with how things have gone. I feel that this slight alteration in our messaging is going to open this up, draw those members back to us when they see that we're taking a little bit more of a broader approach to make this palatable to the masses. So, in that vein, as I was saying, shape the reputation as deconstructors, push the concept we're builders, builders of economy, builders of family, defenders of family rights, parental rights, personal choice, technology, entrepreneurship. right? We can make the claim more than any other party that we are owners of the space of innovation because we want to remove every barrier that exists to these technologies, medical, etc. Can you scroll down a little bit for me?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thank you. Perfect. So one of some of the weaknesses, obviously, as I mentioned, destroyers, not builders. Criticism of a lot of ideas, but no impact. A culture of negativity. Now, what do I mean by that? There's many people that you'll meet that say, when I have tried to get into the party, I was essentially driven out because we are a negative culture. We are purity testing everybody. We are attacking everybody. And that's something where I've heard time and time again, people will leave the Republican side, dally with us, and then get pissed off because they've been mistreated and slandered as states. Reputation is selfish, insular to needs, right? As the people say, we don't care about the poor, we don't care about the climate. Again, this is why this messaging, I want to shift away from that to give people something to believe in. Some of our strengths, on the other hand, accuracy on predictive outcomes. We can really buy into that. We've told people this is what's going to happen in our inflationary environment, what's happening with the foreign entanglements we're in. Passionate, knowledgeable member base. The principled and consistent positions. Now that is something that we're the party principle for a reason. We are sticking to the principles. We're not adjusting according to the winds that blow, as some of these parties do. We're not making excuses. We're not forgiving. That is something that we really need to accentuate. We do not forgive when our own candidates go against what we believe in. We hold their feet to the fire. I also think that a strength of ours is the shift in voice that we've had. Since the taker, we have had a shift in voice. As I said, with the Twitter, with the waiver interaction, with the way Angela has responded to me, that shift is attractive to people. It's making us more likely because we do have a reputation as being a little bit dry, a little bit, too insular, too nerdy. We are not the cool party. We can change that, and the opportunity to change that is now. As people are looking away, we have the most people right now looking at independent parties. Wait, scroll down a little bit more, please. The opportunities, as I said, rebranding is possible because of the overlooked nature of our party. It's a young party, right? We're 50 years old. That's nothing. We're going to the long history of the Democrats, the Republicans, the Green Party. Now, RFK has opened the door to a lot of people's minds as far as a third-party run. That is also a danger to us because it's going to mean that attracting people to our side and attracting voters, trying to achieve certain poll numbers is going to be very difficult. But at the same time, we can capitalize on that and piggyback off of it as the third largest candidate, our third largest party. Say we're the viable alternative here. You can see RFK's calling here. We know people are open to it from the mindset perspective. Let's scroll down a little bit. I'll keep jumping forward. I don't want to take too much time up here. So, as I said, the analysis here, the best way to take advantage of our strengths, to play down our weaknesses, is for us to generate excitement. And that's what I want to do with this. Generate excitement with not only the party, but with the public. Enter a bright future under libertarianism. So, the futuristic vision here essentially is, as I said, building this mythology. Scroll down a little for me again. And overcoming the one-trick pony concept that we have been. As I said, the one-trick pony is we will make government smaller, we'll protect your rights and liberties, but that doesn't really mean a lot to people because they can't understand what we're delivering. It just sounds stupid. So, I'll give you some examples of this world-building concept, this myth-building concept, and using if-when statements in a lot of what we do, because we want to make presumptive statements. When we are in power, this is what we'll achieve. This is what the future will be. Even if we haven't achieved it yet, you have to talk it into being. This is a core component of public relations in every respect. Every business owner who's ever started anything, you talk it until you make it, right? Make it until you make it. So, for example, personal liberty. This is an example of how I like the messaging to roll out. Libertarians will deliver freedom of choice in every aspect of their life, leading to the greatest outcome for the greatest number of people. Diversity of choice and outcome for its individuals to find their best path to prosperity, to inspire and follow others who find success. You are solely responsible for your choices. You are free from being held responsible for the mistakes of others. Freedom of choice creates infinite outcomes separated from group control, leading to the most opportunity to find the best path forward and the least shared and redistributed risk. So we're saying, we're going to take your liberty, we're going to give it to you, and this is actually less risk. Individualism is less risk because you're grouped into this massive societal infrastructure. If it fails, we all go down with it. We are going to give you back your freedom. We're going to try to insulate you from that risk. Your freedom creates safety, opportunity, and stability in our world. Societies thrive on trial and error. The best ideas lead the way. A libertarian future assures the survival and evolution of society through a million trailblazing roads rather than the doubling down on failed mechanisms. Now, it may seem like this isn't a huge departure, but it's the key elements here is how we message this. We are assuring the survival and evolution. We're positioning ourselves as the way we will assure that our way of life can continue. That's the key. Scroll down a little bit more for me. Okay, we'll go down to, so parental rights here. Another example, the Libertarian Party, I think, can make a real stand on being the party of family, of keeping the family unit intact, of parental rights. They're saying here, the existence of family units are under threat from government. Unjust laws subsidizing broken families through perverse incentives and pitting family members against each other. The Libertarian Party stands for the individual. However, we recognize that strong individuals are formed through strong families. Strong families make communities that are resilient, independent, and supportive. So we'll remove the threats. We will also, and this is some of the concepts I also want to introduce here, and I know I might get some pushback on this, but libertarianism tends to be very micro-focused on what is tangibly possible right now. We have to think bigger. We have to promise bigger to people. So this is an example. The neighborhood used to be the center of the world rather than an afterthought of splintered families and politics. Families growing together with shared experiences bonding together for the betterment of all. We will bring neighborhoods and a sense of community back. Now guys, do I know if we can build neighborhoods that bring senses of community back and all that? No, of course I don't. But we have to say it. Okay? And we have to make other people believe it. And we have to get them to buy into this amazing new future. Scroll down a little bit more. I'll do one more of these and I'll introduce another aspect. Let's see. That was good. Go. Going a little bit. Okay, this is an interesting concept. Rights and discrimination. So trade, commerce, and markets are the greatest tool for bringing diverse people together for mutual benefit, cultural understanding, and friendship. When you remove the barriers to commerce, to entrepreneurship, and innovation, you break down the walls that exist between communities. This is an example of taking our philosophical beliefs, right? That the free market, the marketplace of interaction and trade between free people is the way forward. And we're positioning it now to take advantage of a cultural flashpoint. To assure people that, look, if you believe in us, we can actually help heal racial divides through this philosophy. The same here, the divisions of race that exist in America are made deeper, more resentful by government actors, and government programs sold as benefits that instead work as shadows. By providing untethered opportunity to engage economically, we remove the divisions, encourage upward mobility, and raise community out of stasis. Application of our philosophy in order to solve a problem that is plaguing America, or so we're being told. Now, you guys can read through these at your leisure. This is something that I need to add on to. And what I want to do is actually get more people involved, more thought leaders, bring in more creative minds on this, and really build out this possibility. As I said, endless possibilities of how we can apply our philosophy with the guarantee of a better future. So we have to have people come in and help us. Scroll down a little bit more for me. We're going to go down to some of these additional ideas. Oh, there we go. So, go up a little bit here to, right here, freeing the American mind from anxiety. Now, you'll recall in my ramblings of a madman speech last night that I went off at the end about this very concept. And I think we need more concepts of this because in addition to the mythology building on the positive outlet on our platform, right? Because we're not replacing the planks, we're not replacing the platform. This is an addition. This is an adding on. It's another lesson. I want concepts like this where we're thinking now, we're philosophically bringing something new that addresses the problem people have. The American mind is filled with anxiety because anything that happens anywhere in the world, we are responsible for it in some way, shape, or form. which is bullshit. So this, American culture is fraught with fear, anxiety, and doubt because they're involved in conflicts. When the Libertarian Party ceases to involve the nation in foreign entanglements, Americans will regain their peace of mind. The bombardment and anxiety that something terrible happens everywhere in the world will be erased. What matters most, family, business, friends, community, will be your day-to-day worries, not something that happens across the world, which can only harm us due to our involvement. We will return your minds to you. A guarantee that we're going to help people's mental state. We're going to help their general state of being, their wellness. Again, a promise of a better future. Scroll down a little bit to A Million Little Strings. The stability of a million strings. Essentially what these are, guys, are parables, I guess is a way to put this. This is the kind of stuff, and I'll read you this next in just a minute, but this is the kind of stuff where you look at the promises these other parties make. You look at the promises of the GOP, the Democratic side of things. The GOP promises they're going to take you back to a time when you needed one car and one job, and your kids were happy, and everybody had a white picket fence, yada, 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 right? This is a bullshit promise. It's never going to happen, but they promise it. They're building that on. That's their power, right? The Democrats say you're not going to have to work. We'll give you UBI. Everybody's going to be skipping down the block, and all the children will be mixed race from here on to the end of time, right? None of this shit's going to happen, but they promise this. This is how they're going to sell the world. Power, right? This stability of the million strings is another example. So here's the concept. The regulatory market, the heavy hand of government, and the multitude of agencies we are told exist to protect the people, the stability of our system. Yet we have rampant inflation, bank failures, housing bubbles. We have politicians to take advantage to make millions as the rest of the population suffers. Stability through government is an oxymoron. The government stabilizes the natural equilibrium of every market. The heavy hand pushes one way and one way only towards itself. When the Libertarian Party removes the heavy hand, deregulates the markets, and removes the self-enriching attack arms of the state, then and only then will we have no stable market possible. A million strings tied to a pillar pulling in every direction means that it cannot possibly fall down. Those strings are the interests, dreams, wants, needs, and protections that free people place upon everything they do. It is self-correcting, self-protecting, and stabilizing. The philosophy that we believe in, repositioned in a way that is memorable to people. Something that they can read, they'll go, you know what? Fuck, yeah, that makes sense to me. This is a visual concept that's going to stick in the mind. You know, a little mind worm, and once that mind worm gets in there, then we can grow, because they're believing it. What we need to establish here, one of these things is, one of the core here concepts I'm trying to get here is, we need to create a religious belief in people that exists similarly to these other parties. The people who vote Democrat, they always vote Democrat because they believe in the mission and the message and the future. That's what we need to do, and this is buying into that. Parables, AKA religion. All right, I'll move on to a little bit more here. I can actually just talk through this, not to worry. I'll give you a new tagline again. Just because I think we have to redefine ourselves as builders. Now, I don't want to replace party of principle. I think we have to add on an addition, which is the Libertarian Party built different to build different. AKA, we are built differently. We think differently. We operate differently. We want to take the world out in a new way. We want to build a new world differently than anybody before us. AKA, stop doing the same dumb shit, try something new. That is us. Now, a couple of the things that I wanted to talk about is creation of evergreen media assets. This isn't so much part of a strategy as much as a recommendation to help candidates create better campaigns to bring more people back into the party. One of the criticisms we have is that we don't give enough candidate support, but we don't have the money to give every candidate support financially to create commercials, to buy ads. What we do have the money for is a creation of evergreen media assets. What I mean by that is creation of commercials that are professionally created, crafted, that look sharp, the messaging is sound, that have plug and play aspects, where you have insert your face here. You know, if you want to run for your local sheriff's office, whatever, Libertarian Party, everything in there except you say, I'm Brian McWilliams, I'm running for office here, vote for me, you pop in your website, but all the other assets have been created for you. This can apply to social media templates, this can apply to print advertising. This can apply to tenants that you can pull to use on websites. We're gonna back that up with media lists, where these people not only can use it for advertising, but also regionally created lists that are gonna be available for candidates to reach out, to run campaigns, to work with media, to deliver their message in the best possible way. So that, I think, also gives us a fantastic fundraising message, because if we're giving people out there that are running tangible reasons, voter gravity, these media assets, here's your commercials, they have a reason to give us money. Quid pro quo, it makes sense, I drop my pen, that's fine. There you have it. Now, how much time do I have?
You're a little bit over time, but we're good, because we
Then we
did.
have, oh.
Negative 5 minutes.
I'll move to extend for how much you.
I was just gonna see if anybody had any questions.
I had some wrap up music I was about to play, but.
Using my own tricks against me?
Going once, going twice, or none, okay, time to you guys.
Okay, so that's pretty much it, guys. Any questions? Is there anything you need me to explain a little bit further? Oh, one thing I do want to mention, as I mentioned, we're gonna need more people to weigh in on this. I want to create essentially an ongoing effort to add on to this, to continuously grow what the messaging is going to look like for these parents. Yes?
One of my frustrations with messaging that comes for candidates in particular is we're not concise.
Mhm.
We can be very long-winded and we want to explain, the entire history of the creation of the federal reserve, play-by-play.
You said the Fed, your kids are crying. Kids is on this child.
That's something we can do. Is people understanding that the concern is we can't communicate this or any kind of vision if we literally can't get the words out of our mouths.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does. And also, in a way, speaking to that, yes, we can work with you on being more concise. And you'll see that these messaging.
I'm sorry, repeat that back up there.
That's fine. The messaging positions here are succinct. These are a couple paragraphs long. And also, one of the things I was discussing last night, when I was talking with Matthew Butts outside, is, Javier Milei came. And how Javier Milei, this firebrand figure, he's out there, I'm gonna get to them, I'll ripping off the agencies. One thing I'll tell you, he could get into the weeds if he had to explain it, but for the most part, he didn't. And I think the libertarians also make the mistake of getting too deep into things where you don't need to explain it. And in fact, you probably are better off not getting into the weeds and instead focusing on the positive, focusing on the message. We're going to deliver this, and then if they push on it, okay, go into it a little bit deeper, but it's probably better to simply give the assurance, the promise, without having to go too deep into the mechanism. Yes, Pat.
So assuming early stage, the commercial idea is fantastic. Most folks don't have the contacts, the money. Amortizing these commercials over a large national base with some national funding is fantastic. Are you going to, at its first stage, just do some, to your point about being broad, not specific, not explaining niche level economics? What type of themes are your thoughts to kind of kick this off?
Well, so a lot of what's in here is essentially my starting place, and we'll make the document available for everybody to read through. But it is that, tying into, like right now, we've got, obviously, inflation is a major component. Biden is suffering because of it. So focusing on that, how we're going to end inflation, how we're going to be, essentially give you, and this is one of the points in here too, I didn't go through, but give you the options as far as how your money is spent. So if you want to use this fiat currency, okay, we're going to tie it to the gold though. If you want to use Bitcoin, that's fine. You're going to have a choice between different economies that you can buy into. It's going to be your choice. We're going to free your money up, and we're going to make it so it's stable. Because that's one thing is you have no stability in the marketplace right now in order to put your money. We're going to give that back. So it's these broader concepts that are, I'm hoping, going to not only assure people that we can do as possible, but as I think you and I talked about last night, one of the things we also need, guys, desperately, is people that care less about libertarianism. And I know that sounds completely counterproductive, but I'm telling you, we need people who, similar to the Democrats and Republicans, are libertarians And they don't really give that much of a shit about what we actually are doing. You know, they're not reading Rothbard. They haven't memorized Man, Economy, and State. They are just convinced of the message. They give money, they vote L, and that's the extent of their involvement. That's what we need to compete. And that's what this messaging platform hopefully is going to usher in. Adrian, your question?
Yeah, so brilliant presentation. I think it's a great starting point. I agree with everything that you said in regards to the messaging aspect, and I think with Mr. Benner here. When there's a quote unquote controversial tweet or something, I really do appreciate, and I hope that this continues to be a trend, where it's not, there's no apology issued. There's no, we said this thing, this makes sense, this is our position. You may not like how it's written, you may not like whatever. Instead, you just explain a little bit more, you just double down on that whole thing.
Yep.
And I do agree with, I feel that continues to be a trend. And I think that
Absolutely.
Twitter's really great for that.
And again,
you've done a
credit to
fantastic
Dave
job.
and Dylan for handling Twitter. They're doing a fantastic job. But yes, to your point, when we've had the opportunity, and you saw Angela's wonderful response to the Southern Poverty Law Center. So MNFP, that is the party. That's another thing which is in the document, you can go through at your leisure, is we have an opportunity here because the resistance party on the left isn't the resistance party anymore. They are the evil empire. And the younger generation knows this. They don't view them as the saviors. They view them as the all-controlling force because they do control the levers of power. They control entertainment. They control media. That's the most common thought is in line with that party. So we have a chance to become the party of the resistance, the party of the future, the party that generates excitement. We have the chance for the first time to be the cool party. And I know it scares a lot of them because you're unattractive. But I do think there's a massive opportunity.
You were right to look at the vice chair when you
And
said that.
messaging. Being unapologetic, fuck you, double middle fingers. You saw Donald Trump ushered in his presidency based on promises, based on fuck you, double fingers, and that is essentially one of the things that we're bringing to the table.
The first time I interacted with the SPLC, I was simply a very diplomatic, polite quote, and then published it. But you could see, the trail of that faith.
Of course.
When I responded by saying, give my regards to your Lucy Perry masters, they deserved it.
Of course.
And
No,
so
I thought your response was perfect, and the people reading that response too.
they loved it.
They loved it, absolutely loved it. Because people know, people are smarter than we give them credit for. Yes.
Okay, well, I won't get, I'm getting this, and I think it's probably just that everyone hears things through their own prejudices. Because, like, some of the things you said, I'm like, oh yeah, and then other things, I'm like, well, that seems contradictory. So I trust that you have a unified version, but I just want to express my concerns because that's kind of my reputation here. I'm one of the viewers that was complained about, that's okay. Because I think you meant it all in love. I do think we can be a bit fighting faces off. But also, sometimes what happens is people come to the party looking to make us into the GOP.
Yep.
And I do think that people trying to do that deserve the response that they get, to be honest with you. But we need to be a little bit more diplomatic, because some people are just new.
Yeah.
And learning. I mean, when I first joined the party, I was not in the party, but like a week before I joined the party, I believed in universal health care. But the one thing I did want to express a concern with, and just give you some historical perspective, ever saying anything to augment the tagline will have a libertarian civil war. We had this happen before with a former political director that I love, that added a new, allegedly augmented tagline of less government, more freedom. And that caused a civil war in the party for about 10 years. Now,
That's good, I'll have a legacy then.
well, I like the tagline when we're marketing to Democrats. A lot of people got really upset with the America First billboards, and I don't think it was at the hell of being upset. But I think that tagline is great for the Democrats with the whole build thing. But the one concern I have with it is I don't think as a party that we are, I like to build differently, but I don't think it's to, I forgot what it said, I could put it back up here.
Built different to build.
Because I don't think we as a party are saying we're gonna build anything, I think we're saying that people will, that we're built different to allow individuals to build differently.
Well, yeah, but essentially what we're saying is but what we are building is a future and a new way of operating. So it's still building, and like I said, the thing I'm trying to achieve with that is just that everything in what we do is tearing down. And nothing is emphasizing that it's gonna be better, and that we have to have a reputation as, don't worry, we have a plan to replace this. That's the building I'm talking about. Not that, the government creating jobs that
We're
are
building back better. It's better.
Oh, that one
But
was.
I actually do think that's the direction to go in to appeal to Democrats.
I mean,
Because we've got a lot of accusations that some of the things we've come up with are just geared towards Republicans.
Like the coalition goes to left.
Yeah, I know, we're ignoring all of that, but I actually do think that's a brilliant direction to go in to reach Democrats. Because, the America First one thing I thought was brilliant to bring in Republicans. So just in general, like if you need, with the permission of the chair, she could always tell you to ignore whatever I have to say. If you want to know who the curmudgeon is on the LNC, that's going to be the security police, that's me. Just so you know.
Good to know, good to know. Anybody else? Yeah,
If it's fine with the LNC, I know staff don't typically ask questions. But
30 seconds, go.
yeah, so in order to implement this, do you need any additional staff, or do you plan on using services that are provided by freelancers?
No, I don't need either. What I actually want to do with this is, and I discussed this with Angela as well, what I'd like to do with this is circulate the strategy confidentially to, a small circle of people who are some of our best thinkers. For example, Michael Malice, see if he's got thoughts on it. We'll give it to Dave, we'll go to the Kibbies. We'll go to some of the people out there that can kind of take it to the next level with us. And anybody here who wants to help, if you've got ideas, we want to try to expand it and bring in more minds and essentially have a committee or a coalition that is just kind of always thinking about these things and can add on as we go, as we evolve. Because there's a lot of points to go through, and there's, the idea would be that there's no real end to this, that we can continue to build it out, and that's probably for the best, because if you're trying to inspire people, if you're trying to tie into futurism, what we can achieve, you want as many people to think about that as possible, because people that get to the website and actually browse through it, you never know what's going to key on.
Yeah.
It's kind of like, buying a car. You don't notice car ads until you're buying a car. And people going across the website, they might not even know that they're pissed off as fuck about something until they go, you know what, that's some bullshit. And they're telling me it's gonna make it all better.
I just want to make a quick point. I know we were over time. I think we need to be very careful to not come up with taglines and slogans to specifically target Republicans or Democrats. For the most part, they're all sold already. 60% of the voting population does not vote for the fact that they're disenfranchised with the system. We need to work, how do we speak to the people who are disenfranchised and bring them to us? When people that are Democrats and Republicans that are half in, half out, see them coming to us, they'll come to us. We need to put our message forward with taglines that sell to our people, or like-minded people. So I just want to be very cautious, and I think we should consider not trying to specifically target Democrats or Republicans. We just need to target our message, like just push our message. It worries me that we want to do an American First billboard, or that we want to do something about building better. I understand your concept of positivity.
Yeah, this isn't target. That's
Yeah,
not
no,
targeted.
it came up, we mentioned a few things. I just think everyone just needs to remember, fuck the Democrats and the Republicans for the most part. What they're doing is shit, and we just need to keep doing what we do best.
That should be our tagline.
What they're doing is shit.
For the most, what they're doing is shit.
Over time.
I just wanted to put that out there. It's just, I'm done.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate your time.
Go Birds.
Go Birds. I think you want to, sorry if you're driving out back up to back Christmas tree.
No, you're not. Thank you.
I'll
Thank
see
you
you
so
guys
much.
later.
Okay, let's work on, getting Oliver Hall on the phone, because that's our next agenda item.
It's
Yes, we're right now, okay. Do we have a conference phone here?
I don't believe they provided us with one.
Okay, I'll call Oliver.
Oh, I got a speaker upstairs. I forgot to bring it down.
You want to go into executive session?
Not yet.
His report was all public. He didn't have any confidential sections of his.
Yeah, it was very cut and dry, right? Like very,
Yeah.
that was the one pager, I think.
Okay, I'm calling you now. Hi, Oliver, you are on speakerphone at the LNC meeting.
Madam Chair.
Give me 1 second, I'm gonna hook you up to a Bluetooth speaker, maybe. Let's see here.
Otherwise, everyone's just gonna have to gather around.
Is it on?
Yes, this isn't enough to do one earlier. I think she has a real life.
Sorry, Oliver.
We did.
Well, we are being futuristic.
New business. We did the.
Councilman.
We did one or two. I think we did the easy ones. We did, remember, we did the two.
All right, let's try again.
Okay.
All right. Okay, everybody, I need you to keep your voices down because Oliver's here. We're on a little speaker here. Okay, so yeah, we're not in executive session. I just thought I'd give you a chance to just go over some of the highlights of your report that were non-confidential.
Sure, great, thank you. Well, as usual, I think the report is more or less self-explanatory. In this quarter, I spent a good deal of time advising state party affiliates about various questions relating to FEC compliance, corporate governance, litigation issues, things of that nature. And also did similar services for the LNC itself. Most recently, I have been focusing on finalizing the contracts for the 2026 convention. That has been going well. I'm happy to report that the hotel contract has been finalized with the hotel accepting all of our proposed edits to their proposed terms. So that is good and has turned out much more favorably for our side. There is a separate contract for the convention space for the actual convention itself. And we're in the final steps on that contract as well. We have also proposed a number of revisions to their terms, and it looks like those are going to be accepted by the convention hall. And so I hope to have that finalized and ready for execution as early as next week. I think that's all that I need to sort of highlight. So at this point, I'll be happy to discuss any issues or answer any questions anyone might have.
Does anyone have any questions for Oliver? Mr. Martin Cowell?
Yesterday, the chair said there was something, that's a secret, so.
Never mind. Any other questions for Mr. Oliver? Going once, going twice? Hearing none. All right, Oliver, was that all we needed? Thank you so much for making yourself available to check in with us.
Okay, of course, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay, our next agenda item is policy manual amendments for motions agendized by our secretary.
Okay, let me pull that off under new business of previous notice and the order they are here. Now, when I noticed these particular ones, the policy manual committee didn't get to meet, but then I ran by them after the fact and got after the fact blessing. So the first one, and I do encourage all committees, by the way, I know we've done this before, but as we're coming towards the end of the term, to make sure things are in conformity with how the practice actually is, please look at your descriptions and get to the policy manual committee if there's any changes you would like in there. So with the historical preservation committee, people who don't know, well, first I'll make a motion, see if there's a second, then I'll explain it. it is to add the language in blue at the end, which says, in order to maintain continuity and progress on long-term and technical projects, the HPC members remain in position from term to term until resignation or replacement by action of the LNC at any time. The HPC is expected to fundraise to offset any budget for preservation projects. In the event of vacancy of the chair of the HPC, the LNC will make every effort to appoint a member in the vicinity of the physical archives. The HPC must make every effort to ensure there's at least one member, if it is not the HPC chair, in the vicinity of the physical archives, and one member with sufficient technical expertise to provide system administration to support, administrative support to LP. So the purpose of this is that a lot of people don't know that HPC members are the same since 2017. We've all been on that committee for 6 years, with one exception, which is the chair of New York, who came on a little bit later, who's Andrew Polsky. I sung the praises yesterday of Ed Vogler. He is our administrative system admin for LPDA. If all of a sudden, like say, after DC, it was just like, we're gonna put a bunch of people who don't know how to do the administrative support, LPDA will be gone. If this isn't the type of committee that, to have turnover every 2 years can keep a project going. For instance, we're in the middle of a very technical, anyone who knows anything about wikis will know what I'm talking about. The categories were a mess. We're going through thousands and thousands of articles and categories, and I'm about 2 years into it and maybe a third of the way through. Each of us has specific assignments. But obviously, the next LNC and the LNC after that shouldn't be saddled with people that they just think are terrible. So at any time, the LNC can replace the members. All this does is make it that they're not automatically replaced or forced to be replaced at the end of every term. We need continuity on this asset. And it makes no sense to have a whole committee where nobody's by the archives where the work is. And I understand we might be renting out our building or doing whatever, so the archives might not always be in Colorado, which is why I didn't say Colorado. So if we end up getting a space where they could live there, it'd be cheaper for the party, the archives could get moved somewhere. Wherever they're moved, the best chair for that committee will be wherever those archives are. Right now, they happen to be in Colorado, but I'm not making any kind of assumption that they're going to stay there. So I'm looking to protect the LPDA as we're coming up on a term change, and if the next LNC decides that this is just terrible, they can always change this or move to replace all the members of the HPC. And also in conjunction with this, it would strike the appointment of the HPC chair from the post-convention LNC meeting. And also the way appointments work, the LNC appoints the chair, and then the chair appoints the rest of the committee. That's just how HPC is structured. So that's my motion, if there's a second.
Second.
And I explained it kind of at the same time, sorry, didn't mean to do that. So I don't have anything else to say with it.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to make this change to the policy manual regarding the historical preservation committee. Do we have any questions or further discussion on this amendment? Okay, so I will say that what other committees, there's battle access. Are there other committees where the committee term?
Convention oversight.
Oversight, anything else?
Well, just convention oversight, I didn't have time to look it over. I figured we would take this on, and I will look at it per the suggestion of the secretary and make suggestions at the next meeting, but I didn't have anything prepared here.
And one thing I didn't add about this, I wanted it in the policy manual, even though it's, because we've had the same members, it's been understood. I wanted it in the policy manual that the HPC is expected to raise its own budget. We've always done that, but that might not be the understanding in the future, and I wanted it to be the policy. This is a project that shouldn't be costing the party extra money to do things like digitization, or whatever like that. And we've always been able to raise our budget.
So I actually think that this is probably a pretty good idea for the continuity of, internal party function, LNC function. That's all. Do we have any objections to this policy manual amendment? Going once, going twice? Okay, hearing no objection, I'd say the amendment passes. Let's jump to the next one.
Okay, the next one, it's kind of tiny. This actually did come, let me try to expand that. This did come out of the policy manual committee, so section 1.06 legal matters. To change the title to, because right now we just deal with authorization of lawsuits, but our policy manual was silent as the management of the lawsuits that we authorize. And I think mostly that's because a lot of them are ballot access lawsuits in which we have a volunteer counsel, we pay them money and they just do it. And we don't really hear anything about it until the end, whether we've won or lost. But presently, right now, we have one that's not like that. So there needs to be some kind of policy for those sorts of lawsuits on how they get managed. And I actually have an amendment that I'm gonna make before I officially move this. So it's moving to change the title of 1.06 legal matters to add the words "and management of lawsuits," to add once a lawsuit is filed or joined, including lawsuits filed against the party or the LNC, the executive committee shall manage the details of the lawsuit, subject to the budgetary instructions above. The instructions above are we have to have money to do it. The executive committee may delegate this task to an empowered litigation committee. The LNC shall be kept advised of the progress and goals of the suit. The amendment I would like to make to the end of this is that any settlement or dismissal must be approved. Actually, any settlement or dismissal recommended by the executive committee must be approved by the LNC. So that final dispositions of cases go back to the LNC. So that a smaller group's not making entirely those decisions. And one reason, so if there's this, well, it came out of the committee, doesn't need a second. One reason I had on there that the executive committee may delegate the task is there's going to be people who are knowledgeable about certain subject matters of different litigations. And we can't have the executive committee meeting like every week to discuss who's going, like for instance, if there's a deposition, you have to send a corporate representative of the LNC, like the executive committee shouldn't have to need to decide who that person's going to be. So I think this is the most effective way to handle litigation. To be honest with you, that is kind of the way in practice it's been done right now. For those of you who are curious, I don't think this is, Chair can shut me off if this is executive committee, I don't think it is. Right now, the current litigation we're in is being managed by Angela, myself, and Meredith. And I think we rather than flying by the seat of our pants where everyone just kind of is understood that's the way it is, it needs to be an official policy to make it official.
Meredith's not in the room right now. I can just like wait for her to come back. Hold on anything?
I'm gonna copy this so I can put the,
my only concern here is I don't want committee telling me who I'm gonna hire. I don't want a bunch of people who are not in litigation currently trying to make litigation decisions. No offense. That's not the case with the secretary and, so, or with Meredith. But I'm just throwing that out there. What I don't want to do is create this piece that is going to hinder us in the future and have it become death by committee and make bad decisions. So I'm not saying that I'm in favor. I'm just saying let's be mindful of that. This is something I aggressively pushed back against in New Mexico. And I think the situation's different now, and, I'm trying for the policy manual to change according to our needs. Yeah, any thoughts?
Yeah, if I could, I did kind of anticipate that, so notice the introductory phrase, once a lawsuit is filed or joined, the executive committee already has to make that decision with the chair being on the executive committee.
Yeah.
So, and the executive committee is not obligated to delegate to an empowered litigation committee. They just may do that if they feel that's the best way to handle it. So ultimately, it's in the hands of the executive committee, who then may go, this is too much, we don't know, we'll delegate it. It's not required to delegate it.
Okay. Do we know if Ms. Hayes will be back at the moment?
Hopefully, yes, very soon.
Okay.
If we want, we can move on to the next one and come back to this one.
Is there any objection to moving on to the next one and coming back to discussion? Oh, here she comes. Yeah, no worries.
We also have 3 minutes left on this.
Okay. Okay, let me catch you up. Ms. Hayes, we were just discussing this, and I was kind of going over the fact that the not too recent past, I was very hesitant to have any sort of litigation committee telling me who to hire, so on and so forth, because I did not want people who, actively work in litigation telling me how to approach a lawsuit, if that makes sense. And I'm saying, obviously, that's not the case with you and the secretary. We're all literally in litigation. And the secretary pointed out that the language here is after a lawsuit's filed, and it's the executive committee may delegate, so it's not mandatory to a litigation committee. And the three of us are essentially already operating this way.
Yeah.
And you weren't in the room, I did move an amendment, before I moved this motion, I added language, a final sentence that said, any settlement or dismissal recommended by the executive committee must be approved by the LNC. So that final dispositions of cases, because it could, if it's a lawsuit filed against the LNC, it could involve some kind of payment, and
Yeah.
the full LNC should have to approve that.
Any thoughts?
Here's someone.
Oh, Mr. Gopi.
Yeah, so a couple of quick questions. So, we have to make sure this works, with current LNC and future LNC. So you're saying it does work, with how it's working right now with 3 lawyers kind of involved. Does it also work with some lawyers, with not 3 lawyers involved?
No, in my opinion,
It does not apply. This policy manual adjustment.
it's actually, I mean, what's a good way to put this? It doesn't, regardless of whether or not someone's an attorney, a paralegal, maybe an insurance adjuster for 35 years and they're joining it because it's a liability case, it doesn't work, no offense to whoever could be offended, if you don't have competent individuals. If you don't have competent individuals and people who are familiar with the subject matter, it just doesn't work.
I'm asking this because how the secretary is worded, the same thing is that if there are those people on the future LNC, they can appoint a
Yes.
litigation.
And if they're not, then they don't have to do this. So the word may instead of shall, I think is really critical.
Yeah.
This is an option.
Okay, and then, 2 things I liked about this motion that I didn't like at first when I was taking it over was, so the LNC decides how much money is going towards the
Yes.
total dollars. The XCOM decides how those dollars are spent. So the LNC can still choke the lawsuit if they
Yes.
wanted to.
Yeah.
And then they can still deny the final settlement.
Yes.
If they wanted to, so there's like 2 sets of
There's
checks and balances.
Because this would work like ballot access in this
Yeah, I
case,
just want to
right?
make sure like everyone gets that, like,
Yeah.
if the XCOM sometimes is looked at as like this little.
Yeah. And I don't mean to be offensive, but this is a history with the LNC, and I think that this iteration of the LNC is peeling it back. But we have a tendency as a board of directors to over-govern and micromanage everything to death because we don't have major elections we're winning. That's what it is. And so I think we're starting to really understand our role of governance better, which is awesome. And hopefully in the next iteration of the committee and thereon, we'll continue to grow.
I think we need to move to extend, I want to move to extend for 15 minutes, there's 2 more policy manuals.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to extend time by 15 minutes on this agenda item, any objections? And we're almost halfway through, going once, going twice, here none, so it's extended.
to piggyback on what Mr. Hagopian said, my overall vision in this was that the LNC would be guiding the birds, the mega vision, but the LNC wouldn't have to be going, is a motion to dismiss best right now? Because I guarantee you half the people in here don't even know what that entails or means. So the LNC would be ultimately in charge of the overall vision. They be kept apprised of the progress, but the day-to-day management of it is it better to file this now, or we would be the people who actually know the field?
Any further questions on this amendment? Okay, any objections to passing this amendment? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
Has it been moved and seconded?
Yes,
It came out of committee.
Nice.
so it's also been seconded.
And remember, there is that additional sentence that's gonna get typed on there, which is that the LNC has to approve any dismissal or settlement recommended by the executive committee. It's kind of like the budget, the executive committee recommends it, but the LNC has to pass it.
All right. Hearing, was that a simple majority?
Regular, yeah, majority. You know, take that.
I believe it.
Oh, wait, actually,
I think that needs to be in there.
no, what I'm trying to, is this a special, to be safe, but 2/3 would make it safe?
I don't want it to be safe.
Okay, I think it should, well, hold on, no, it occurs outside. I think it's a special rule of order and would require a 2/3 vote.
Oh, geez.
Not the entire LNC, just a 2/3 vote.
But that's president voting, right?
Why don't,
It's present
nobody
voting.
objects, why would we just,
Yeah, you can do it without
there's
objection.
nobody's object.
We can do a roll call, I'm fine with that.
How did we previously decide if we were going to dismiss or,
We didn't, there was never a procedure for it, that was my concern.
and now we want to place the major, we want to place dispositive motions in the hands of the entire body of the LNC?
Yes. Dismissals or
Dismissals of individuals?
any, yes.
But this is based on the recommendation of, right?
Well, actually, no, I don't think, no, actually, it doesn't say that. My motion, I'm going to move to amend
Okay.
that sentence. Any settlement or dismissal of the entire lawsuit.
I'm okay with that.
So,
Get it?
Can we have the new language on the screen?
okay, I'm going to put that additional for some reason, I can't copy out of this PDF, but the additional sentence, I will get on the screen here in one moment. Just gonna see it right there in the middle, I know it's not in order, so it would be any settlement or dismissal of the entire lawsuit recommended by the Council of ExCom must be approved by the LNC.
Let me explain my reasoning here. When you file suit, you may have multiple causes of action. And you may have one or two, because you may do a shotgun blast approach and put in, 3, 6, 12 causes of action. And you may end up settling, or dismissing one or two of them instead of going through a court hearing where you incur additional fees and you know that they're gonna get the other side. The other side is gonna win and toss out just one or two causes of action. It incurs more fees for you to go fight a useless, stupid battle in court, as opposed to just saying, you know what, I'm still gonna sue and win, but I'll pull off just like one tiny little argument. And the same can go for settling out with maybe you shotgun blast a whole bunch of defendants and you know that eventually one or two are gonna settle out, and it doesn't matter because they're not necessarily the people you're really going after, but you can make an argument theoretically. So you end up letting one or two out, but it doesn't impact your case at all, you know, it just provided you some additional leverage in the beginning.
This actually happened, this is public knowledge in the case we have now, the other side voluntarily agreed and we agreed not to pursue, they're not gonna use the chicken. So they were like, we're arguing with the.
Chicken on a stick.
Yeah, nobody wants that chicken. So they were like, we'll stipulate that we can remove that we won't be using the chicken.
Anyway, so I'm okay with it as it's written, so we're 2 amendments deep, so this is as many amendments as we can have.
Well, I moved it with the original language, so this is one.
Okay, so we're 1 amendment in. So now that I've, all of that, any additional questions on this one? We're good? I'm trying to explain it as thoroughly, painfully as possible. Okay, any objections? Going once, going twice? All right, this, policy manual amendment as amended is adopted.
Okay, third one is quite simple. We never had codified in our policy manual that at the fourth quarter meeting, we're supposed to do a budget. So when Todd was saying, did we notice the budget? And I'm like, that shouldn't have to be noticed. It's kind of like, we have things that we have to do at the post-convention meeting, like appoint the executive committee. This should be part of the standing agenda for the fourth quarter meeting. So it's just to amend, where we have a standing agenda to add under new business with previous notice, presentation and approval of budget for the quarter meeting. So,
I'll second.
I don't care.
I'll second.
Somewhere else, there's a time limit on when the budget needs to be approved. I think that's January,
that I don't know, I just know we always do it at the end of the year.
Yeah, no, last year this came up because we went into January and realized that there was somewhere by the side. I'm okay with it, on the agenda.
Right.
But potentially,
Approval.
potentially want to amend out the approval, so,
So presentation of budget.
yeah, so I would amend striking to your reports again.
It says presentation and approval of budget for quarter meeting, but let me give you just, this is a standing rule,
Okay.
which means it can be suspended with a majority vote.
Okay.
Was there a really good reason to have January as the approval?
I mean, the main reason is, it's just, so the way that we do it is you have to go to the XCOM and then you come
Yeah.
here. And potentially by the time you go to the XCOM, you don't even have final numbers come October.
That's
You know what I
true.
mean? So you're making a budget without knowing how much cash you're coming into the year with. You're making a budget without knowing what Q4 looks like. Normally, it's gonna be fine, and you can always amend the budget. I'm just saying like that did have impacts this year. Where suddenly our revenue fell off and we were making a budget based on what our revenue was, you know, and then we had some massive changes that happened. So not a huge concern, but it did happen.
Yep. Madam Secretary?
Well, also note this, it just says it's on the agenda. When you put something on the agenda for presentation and approval, it doesn't mean you have to
Yeah.
approve it. It just means approval is on the table so that previous notice is given, and it can be, nope, we're gonna do it in January.
Yeah, I'll vote for this. I just wanted to make sure people understood what I was asking.
So, I don't wanna sound like a certain way, but, you know, to a certain extent, I'm okay with just about any policy manual amendment. Ultimately, as chair, especially when it comes to finances, I'm gonna do what I think is the appropriate thing to do. I almost pushed back against having the budget meeting like very early in December. I almost kicked it to January. I kicked it on over a little bit. And when I saw that our finances were like looking pretty stable, I thought, yeah, whatever, it doesn't matter. So I'll be in favor of this, but I just want you to know that to me, it's almost a little arbitrary. Ultimately, like what I have to do is do what's financially responsible for the organization, whether or not it's in the policy. Any other comments? Okay, do you want to go to vote on it? Any objection to passing this amendment? Speak now, remember what's your piece, or until whenever you feel like it. Okay, hearing no objection, this amendment passes on to the last one.
Okay, the last one is somewhat a bit more arcane. And I've brought this up multiple times where we have our policy manuals divided between special rules of order and standing rules. And we tried as a policy manual committee to try to divide these out very clearly, and I thought we did until I'm reading it even more closely, and I just don't think it's possible. Without duplicating, without having committees in two different places the way it was before, for instance, which is confusing. And the fact is, the next LNC that comes along and amends it might not understand the difference, and they start shoving things in wrong places. And the fact is, in Roberts, when it deals with policy manuals or your special rules and standing rules, it talks about a combined document where the chair has to look at the nature of the rule and decide the vote threshold. You can't just put it in one section so that everyone knows the vote threshold. Because, for instance, even Richard Brown was baffled by something that was in our policy manual about litigation. It says litigation must be approved by the executive committee. Well, that's arguably a standing rule, and then it goes by a 2/3 vote. Well, that's a parliamentary rule. So it was a combination standing rule and special rule of order. There's no way to cleanly divide these out. So what we did, or what on this, is to just make it a policy manual. No two sections. At the beginning of the policy manual, it explains the difference between special rules of order and standing rules. And when it comes time to amend this thing, the chair is just going to have to determine what the vote threshold is by what the nature of it is. The same thing's true with convention standing rules. They call them standing rules, but there are special rules of order and standing rules in there. And the vote, even though we haven't done this at convention, but as I've said, we've done our convention wrong for many years. If a convention standing rule is to be amended, the vote threshold is not always 2/3. If we, let me give you the classic example. If we had a convention standing rule that said all delegates must wear name badges, that's not special rule of order, that's a standing rule, and it can be amended by 50%, by a majority, excuse me. I'm using language that's so heretical, but by a majority. So this is the way policy manuals are supposed to be organized. I know why they got tried to be split apart, but the reason it turned into a big mess is because amendments are done by people going, where does it look good to put it, rather than what is the thing. So this would just have one article instead of two articles that contain both special rules of order and standing rules, and just, it cleans it up to what is best practices, because every amendment just screws it up again, because it's just impossible to determine what the thing is. It's a little bit of one, a little bit of the other, like we saw with that legal matters once. It was a little bit of both. So, and it also shortens it by another page, because you don't have that divider between the two. So no content was changed in this. We just eliminated the divider page that said section 2 standing rules. And so we combined it into just one article that contains them both. And to me, that makes it a lot cleaner. We tried to separate it, it just wasn't possible. So the motion is to just get rid of that second section, just have a policy manual.
The joys of procedure.
This would be a good
Does
one.
everyone understand this? Does anyone object to it? Hearing no objection, let's go to a vote. Hearing no objection. The motion passes.
All right, to make a point of order, just to clean up comment on the current policy manual does say it has to be done by the end of the year, which we did last year. The reason that was an issue last year was because we had it early in the quarter. For the meeting. So that's the only problem with it. If anybody wants to reconsider, the only problem with the motion we just passed is if it happens to be an October Q4 meeting, we have a lot less information, but we still have until the 12/31 to pass it based on the motion, based on what the policy manual already says, so I'm fine keeping it. But I wanted to make sure everybody understood what happened last year. I was trying to remember. That's what happened. Yeah. It was an early Q4 meeting, and I wasn't ready, and I didn't think we had enough information, and then we ended up passing the budget in December.
Okay, we're gonna stay in these for 5 minutes, bathroom break, scratch up that policy stuff. Yippee.
Todd, just so you know, though, again, it doesn't require approval.
The owl is still on, everyone?
Yeah.
Like that.
Oh my God, I forgot that
Yeah.
That's the end. He's great.
Yeah.
We are now unmuted.
What are we on?
I don't know. What are we?
We might have already done that. We did separate on the last thing that we did. So, just remember, I mean,
All right, we're back at Disney's. Okay, so we just finished our policy manual amendments. Next item on the agenda is fill vacancies on audit committee and potentially convention oversight committee. This was agenda item by our secretary, Ms. Laura.
Yeah, I think we kind of talked about convention, I'm striking, I'm not dealing with convention oversight committee right now. I only stuck that on there in case it needed to come up and we needed notice, but I had already talked with Mr. Malagam that we probably weren't going to do that. But the audit committee has a vacancy for an LNC member due to the resignation of Mr. Bowen. And I think we need to fill that if someone who's interested in that. It has to be an LNC member, a non-officer LNC member.
Okay, anybody interested in being on the audit committee, and why doesn't anyone pull up policy manual section on the audit committee? Whoever has the fastest Wi-Fi.
We're all using the same one.
Whoever gets there first, just blurt it out.
One non-officer LNC member and two non-LNC members, excluding the assistant treasurer.
And what does the audit committee do?
Audits.
Thank you, Mr.
Not
Vice
quite.
Supervise the
Select
audit.
an independent audit company and to direct the scale and scope of standard annual audits of the parties' accounting records and processes. Following receipt of the audit company's reports, the committee shall help the LNC interpret the audit results and assist the latter in preparing any action plans that might be needed to alleviate deficiencies.
Okay, so you select an audit company, you prepare, you help,
Basically interpret the results.
yeah, you interpret the results and you help decide the scope of the audit. So you're not the actual auditor. Yes, Mr. Malvo?
Do we know if any of the LNC members currently not in attendance may wish to take on that committee role?
Possibly. Should we open nominations online? Is there anyone in this room, though, who is capable of doing audit committee? Who has experience in accounting or auditing? Okay, if not, my recommendation is that we take nominations online. Madam Secretary, what's easiest for you, starting tomorrow, if we open the nominations tomorrow? And then how long should we keep it open?
3 days.
Is that enough time?
I would say a week, only because people are gonna be,
Yeah. Tomorrow's gonna be lost, like I'll open it tomorrow, but a lot of people will be traveling. All right, we're gonna leave nominations open for 5 days, because there's gotta be someone on this committee.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
5 days. Take us to next weekend.
All right, so we'll close nominations on Friday. All right. That's that. So let's jump to our next agenda item. It's City Sierra motion by Adrian Malcolm.
Nice. So I guess before, this shouldn't be, I mean, this should take what, like 5 minutes?
Maybe not, but let's go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say 3, I just gave 5 as a courtesy. I do think that before this motion is made, if it would be appropriate, we did put a stall on the IS committee report, which does coincide with this motion. And Mr. Bukovich is present now to be able to deliver that report, which would answer a lot of the questions that members may have before the motion is officially made. So
Well,
if,
how long is the IS committee report? Do you have a copy of it?
I don't know if there's anyone, I was reading for you I haven't read that.
Okay, has anyone received any reports from the IS committee?
It's in the OneNote.
Okay, so it's in the one. Okay, so if we need to reference it, it's just gonna be part of the discussion.
Okay, so what we could, yeah, so what I could do is, just given Mr. Vukovic's background and his ability to be able to answer more eloquently and technically, he's more technically and eloquently proficient when it comes to this, I would make the motion, or we could have the discussion first where there are some concerns. I know that some LNC members did that.
You should make the motion and then we should discuss it.
Okay, I can do that. So I will go ahead and move that the Libertarian National Committee, LNC, cease using CiviCRM for fundraising and membership for national party purposes, and task the Information Committee, IS, with 1, developing a comprehensive transition plan for said replacement, and 2, finding a suitable replacement within 60 days. This motion rescinds any and all prior LNC decisions in conflict.
I'll second that.
Okay, Mr. Benner,
I would like to move to amend the motion to strike the terminology cease using city CRM for fundraising and membership for national party purposes and retain the remainder of the resolution.
can you?
And I'll also speak to that if I'm given the license.
Okay, so 1 second, let's actually give everybody an opportunity to actually just look at them side by side.
Tell me what you're striking again.
The verbiage, cease using city CRM for fundraising and membership for national party purposes and.
Okay. No one seconded that yet, please. Let's just actually look at what it would say. The said replacement part might need to be.
You need to
Yeah.
swap them, right?
Something needs to be in there.
So look at, it says, Mr. Benner moved that the Libertarian National Committee tasked the IS committee with developing a comprehensive transition plan for said replacement. You might want to be more specific on said replacement. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because we're not, it's unclear what you're replacing.
Can we
But the word
amend,
aid rather than said.
can we amend?
Well, hold on, because it hasn't been seconded yet, so he can still
Okay.
edit his language a little bit.
The said refers to something different.
Can I make a suggestion, Mr. Benner?
Please, Madam Secretary.
If you said that the Libertarian National Committee, move away from using city CRM for fundraising and membership for national party purposes, and then the rest of it could stay the same, because the replacement would be, referring back to moving away. So, it makes it transitory within that at least that 60 day.
Let me refine that. I think what we might want is to just task the IS committee with, deciding what CRM the LNC should use. And we don't have to reference affiliates, right?
That's
That's
what
what
I'm
you
most
want.
amenable to.
You want the IS committee to make a recommendation on what CRM system the national party should be using. And we're not referencing state affiliates because we're not talking about ripping the rug out from under them and taking away the tools they're using.
So would it be develop a comprehensive transition plan?
For the IS recommendation.
But we've gotten rid of it referencing just national.
So, if I may, so
Yeah, Mr. Mallon.
before the amendment is seconded, or there is, while this is being workshopped, if we're still in discussion for the main motion, I would like to have that discussed, because that could change whether or not an amendment is necessary. So to understand why the current verbiage is as it is.
Yours was already seconded.
No, right, so like we're discussing that. So
We're
that's
on the
what-
amendment already.
But that hasn't been said.
But that hasn't been
Okay,
seconded, so
sure.
I'm saying I would suggest, if Mr. Benner is amenable to this, to discuss the motion that's currently been made and seconded. And then if he still believes that an amendment is necessary, then we can move forward with that.
Well,
If it's up to me, I'm down with it, but the way that this is written, there's no way that we can vote, I can vote for this.
right. I understand what you're saying.
I understand. I just want to explain, so at the very least, there is,
I think that the amendment that Mr. Benner is trying to write is gonna make everybody a lot more comfortable, and we're gonna get a lot less pushback from the states. Mr. Manna?
Procedural question, what is the threshold for whenever something becomes the main final motion, what is the threshold? So we are rescinding something previously. That's what I thought. Okay, thank you.
Not a present vote,
Present vote,
typical
yeah.
2/3 vote.
Yep. Thank you.
Which is another reason I think we should go with him. Okay, so let me throw something up, for the amendment.
So you want me to copy this language,
Yeah.
or work off of this language?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. Malagon moved
Well,
that, yeah,
Yeah, you're, somebody else, okay.
okay, moved that the LNC task the IS committee with identifying a CRM for the National Libertarian Party to use within 60 days.
Could we make the text on the screen a bit bigger?
This motion rescinds any and all prior LNC decisions in conflict. Sorry. Now, last question, this is identified. I just want to make clear that this is identified. It does not say we are transitioning within 60 days. So what this is about is developing a plan and presenting it to us. That's it. That's the entire motion. Mr. Mann?
I have some concerns about the timing if it goes on longer than 60 days. I feel like we'll be saddling a new LNC.
We discussed that at length. Plenty of people also agreed, and that's why we're not putting a timeline in here. We also had budgetary constraints about doing it quickly, and we're basically just gonna have to make a decision when they come up with a presentation. Madam Secretary?
People are gonna be surprised, I said this, I actually don't think this motion goes far. And for one thing, this motion would not need that rescinding thing, because no action is being taken, other than telling a committee to identify a replacement. It doesn't adopt a replacement, so it's actually not rescinding anything.
But I do want to present it.
That's why I don't think this language goes, if that's your intention, this motion needs to do more. It needs to make the decision.
Why?
That would leave you.
Mr. Rupa and then Mr. Hagopian?
Point of personal privilege, can I,
Yes.
can you make the text bigger on
That would be
the
super
screen? It's really
I
hard.
kind of
Oh,
want
look
to
at
just
that.
piggyback off of what
Thank you.
Karen Ann is saying.
Okay,
I think it specifically needs to say that we are developing a comprehensive transition for moving away from Civi CRM. I think if we adopt more of the original language and it read more of, I move the Libertarian National Committee Task Information Committee with developing a comprehensive transition plan for moving away from Civi CRM and finding a suitable replacement within 60 days. So we're just taking the discussion of Civi CRM, moving it to that first point so that we're not turning Civi off right now. We're still talking about the goal is to get away from Civi CRM and replace it,
okay.
right? And then we're also saying we're rescinding all previous things.
So here's where I'm going right now. We're gonna go to Mr. Hagopian. I would like to check in with Mr. Benner, then we're gonna go to Mr. Malagon, then we're gonna go to Mr. Mann.
Okay, I'm gonna say my piece and then ask when, or if and when the motion would be appropriate. In my opinion, it's irresponsible to say that we're going to move away from Cindy until we see
Correct.
the new recommendation.
I agree.
I don't want that part anywhere in the
I agree.
motion. If it was up to me, it would be within X amount of days, theoretically more than 60, that could be come sooner.
But we won't know until we see the cost.
Right, but what I'm saying is the IS committee should come up with a 5-year CRM roadmap, not just a proposal for what we're gonna do right now, and rescind all previous.
We saw that yesterday. We already saw the lifeboat and then
yeah, in my opinion, we need to look back, we saw what's wrong with today's.
And he gave recommendations on solutions.
I guess, I'm not happy with how it's working, but.
Okay, let's jump to Mr. Benner. Mr. Benner, how are you feeling about the language in here, and some of the arguments about it not going far?
Very much better. My primary concern was the immediate, what seemed to be interpreted in my mind to be an immediate shutdown of our current
Oh, okay,
membership
so
and fundraising.
We're live streaming, yeah.
Yes.
We're not immediately shutting city streaming down. I just, for the record.
Until
that would
5
be-
PM Pacific time.
That's what we adjourn the meeting at
I
least.
just finished a financial turnaround. We're not going to turn around and implement financial suicide.
Yeah.
We're also not making a recommendation to pull the plug on a resource that state affiliates rely on.
Yeah,
We're-
just
so
the way,
honest.
just the way it read, I was apprehensive about people interpreting it to that. It very
Mr.
much is
Malazan?
or to my left.
And then Mr. Nate.
And that's my point. So this was specifically worded to make it clear that the national, like for fundraising and membership purposes, it is not tenable, as this has already been discussed by Mr. Bukovich, and he would elaborate on further if necessary, to not leave state affiliates hanging out. We can't turn it off. Like, that's not going to be the thing, but we do need to stop using it for what we're currently using because it's not working.
For now.
So for national, that's why I specifically put for national party purposes and left the states out of it, because we do need that life. We still need them to, I mean, they still need it. So that's the whole purpose. That's why it was worded that way. It was intentionally worded to make it clear that it's only for national party purposes. State affiliates will still need to be weaned off of it, so to speak, should they choose to adopt the solution that we are currently looking at potentially adopting. So just to kind of clarify any of that.
Mr. Nate.
Could the treasurer remind me what the current budget allocation for next year is for City CRM? And then I'll have a follow-up point to make.
$19,800 for city CRM. And then there's some additional budget line for software, IT and hardware. That does include a new CRM coming in play in July.
So the reason I ask is because I actually, regardless of whether we use Civi on a national level or just continue on with the project for the states, I don't know that that is enough money to do what should be done with the system.
You know, we had a long discussion about the budget and all of this yesterday, and I don't want to cut you off, but I am a little frustrated that we've gone over this and with the budget so much. So we had a meeting on it yesterday. I guess, do we want to revisit the budget and talk about?
No.
We also talked about it in the XCOM meeting.
I went through 3
I
rounds.
would give some other language on the screen, because if you're looking to rescind something, we actually have to make a decision that is in conflict with the prior decision. So there's my alternate language. The LNC resolves that city CRM is not suitable for use, if I'm missing that words, use for fundraising and membership purposes of the Libertarian National Committee. Therefore, the LNC tasks the IS committee with identifying a CRM for national party to use within 60 days. This motion rescinds.
We strike these 2 words. Because we're not going to use it
Okay.
within 60 days.
Okay.
And then I'm happy with it.
See, that actually rescinds something. That was my just concern that the prior motion didn't rescind anything.
Mr. Benner,
Seconded.
Mr. Watkins.
I'm just curious, is there a reason why after CRM for the National Libertarian Party within 60 days, should that not say Libertarian National Committee? Is there a reason why there's a difference?
Well, I took that from,
Okay.
I think that I want to talk about the party and not just the LNC. I want to we're getting everything covered in here that needs to be. Okay, any further discussion on this?
No, I'm fine with that. So now,
Okay.
that was my intent. That's fine.
So that's it, we're gonna motion that substitute.
if somebody moves that, I was just trying to
Can I,
wordsmith, if someone moves that, it would be a substitute.
Mr. Alston?
could I suggest saying identify a replacement CRM?
No.
I'm not sure that just identifying a CRM implies
How
that
about
it would be
identify-
used, because you took out the 2 U's. So it's not clear that,
A replacement CRM
I would suggest to consider.
to use within 60 days, but we're not gonna use it within 60 days.
no, but the within 60 days modifies identifying, not to use. I mean,
Yeah.
the language was a little unclear.
It
But,
wasn't.
but just taking out to use, then takes out the idea that that's what the purpose of identifying one is for
Do you
use.
guys remember that slide deck I had the first yesterday? Do you remember the gun and the foot?
Shoot yourself.
Are we there?
No.
I'm just, no? Okay.
So, no, I
I
think
mean, what about potential
Wait.
suitable CRM?
it's, no, all we gotta do
I
is,
mean, I think it's fine as it
I think it
is.
is too. Mr. Rutho?
if you just said identifying a CRM for use by the National
There
Libertarian
you go.
Party within 60 days.
Or use by them. Okay.
Yeah, you're 2 for
Mr.
2 recently on
Mr.
bylaws stuff.
Look at that.
Holy shit.
It's in the bylaws.
Yes, if this has not been moved, I would like to move this.
Okay,
Second.
we are here.
So Mr. Rufo, of all people, removed the bullet from the foot. That's his mistake. Usually he's the.
We're really good when it comes to guns and Second Amendment and all that stuff.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Brenner moved that the LNC resolves that city CRM has not proven suitable for use for fundraising and membership purposes of the Libertarian National Committee. Therefore, the LNC tasks the IS committee with identifying the CRM for use by the National Libertarian Party within 60 days. This motion rescinds any and all prior LNC decisions in conflict. Mr. Name.
So, one thing that I think we should do, and maybe it doesn't have to happen now, but before any transition is made, I think all the states should get one final data dump before, whenever we stop ceasing to use it, or whatever, if that's what we do. I think all the states deserve one last
Sure.
dump.
We'll do more than that.
Um,
We'll do as much as IT and IS committee can do. And it's not gonna be one final, we're gonna continue to do data sharing.
Yeah, it's not gonna stop. That's, I want to make that clear to people.
Okay, Ms. Harlow?
Still 5
Yeah.
p.m. Sorry.
Because I just want clarity on the record for everybody, and maybe for me. Because I did get a concerned text earlier, from someone who's in favor, that realizes the city has problems, so it's not, they're concerned that their state is gonna be left cold very suddenly. So I know we kind of already talked about it, but I'm not so sure there's complete clarity on that.
So let me just give like really good clarity based on discussions with staff. The intention is not to pull a plug on Civi CRM and affiliates or using it. We want to go back to the before times when we had Razor's Edge, although we're not gonna go to Razor's Edge necessarily, where the national party is not relying on Civi CRM. We had 2 CRMs at that point. I don't think we want to keep using Civi CRM at the national level, but we're not killing what affiliates are. I need a tool. Ms. Yanuskevich, and then. I called the question. Okay,
That was, yeah.
she has called the question, and that would be on the amendment. Okay. Do we have any objections to this amendment before we go to the main motion?
You're talking about Mr. Benner's thing.
Yes. Any objections? Going once, going twice, we're gonna move to,
Substitution.
yeah, sorry. Is it a sub, no, it's not.
That's
sub-
an amendment.
It's not
It's
It's a
Is it
substitution, it's completely different language.
Okay. Any objections to the substitute motion?
Be coming the main motion.
Coming the main motion. Hearing none, okay, this is our main motion now. Okay, do we have further discussion on our main motion? Mr. Watkins?
I was gonna call the question.
All right, question's been called. Any objections to calling the question?
Yes.
Okay,
I object to the objection.
Well, I don't get to really speak to my
Okay.
objection.
all in favor of calling the question? Hands up. I need a count.
Wait, all in favor of calling the vote?
Calling it, we're calling it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Part of 2/3.
Oh, I didn't raise my other hand.
Okay, continue discussion.
Okay, I'm not speaking against it, but I do think, and after I talk, some other people might want to say something. I was on the LNC when we adopted City CRM. I voted to do the Razor's Edge thing. I absolutely regret that vote. I actually don't know how I'm voting on this. I'm not voting no, let's just put it that way. I might abstain because I've realized through hard-fought lessons that I'm not an IT person. And I've made some votes that I now think aren't good votes because I'm not an IT person. And I kind of want to leave this in the hands of the chair and people who know what's going on. I just wanted to explain that I don't think what any past LNC did was malicious or anything like that. But like when we were talking about legal, where you guys, I know what a motion to dismiss is. I don't know what half the crap, and I don't mean crap in that way, what Andy says. But that's not my language. So I'm now realizing out of my depth that I'm kind of trusting the people who know what they're doing. I just wanted to explain that because I think there's a lot of consternation in the party from other people who really don't understand, but I've seen it's been a disaster. And I just don't want to keep plugging my holes in dikes. I might just step away from the dike entirely and be like, you guys know what you're doing.
Thank you, Madam Secretary. Mr. Gopian.
Building on what Madam Secretary said, I'm going to no vote on this, but let me just explain why I did vote against the Razor's Edge migration, because I was not clear what risks would be associated when that happened. The same goes here. Until I see the recommendation, I'm not comfortable rescinding the prior ones. It's my understanding that the chair can just tell the IS committee to do this, which is what I think she should do. And then when the IS committee comes back and shows us the recommendation, we can then vote on whether to rescind the prior LNC decision. That is how I prefer to do it, so I'll be in no vote.
Mr. Gunner?
I call a question.
Thank you. Any objections on the question?
Yes, I'd like to, Mr. Bukovich has something that he'd like to add to, just for clarity for people that are still uncomfortable with certain aspects of it, that will be short. So I would object to calling the question just for that.
All in favor of calling the question? Hands up. All opposed? Okay, Mr. Bukovich, let's hear from staff. There's no objection.
So,
Come on over.
Boo Steelers, boo.
Steelers, so.
so
Don't do this, guys.
this is maybe beyond my purview of going purely technical recommendation, but from a CTO, I do think like trying to achieve consensus and like governance around our CRM is part of what I'm supposed to be doing here. And to that end, this issue over like we're having like problems with language like shall use, et cetera, et cetera. That is like layer one of the problems of having like this body made up of non-technical people trying to make these specific language decisions around the CRM. This, I think, is great and is definitely the direction we need to go in. I would say even the IS committee could be given more responsibility such that like the LNC is just a veto position and they're giving you guys proposals. And then all of this minutia that like we're getting bogged down with it now, it is part of what led to the Razor migration get-go. There's always going to be problems like this while the board is in a position of being coming up with the language around these decisions. You can export that to the IS. And it's made up of professionals who are really well qualified to do so. And then you guys can get oversight we need to take a position. So that's just me.
Thank you.
I actually,
Okay, hold on. We got Rufo, we got Melvin, and then we got a secretary.
So to that and to what Madam Secretary was saying earlier, I honestly do believe we need to go further in just removing the LNC from this decision process, period. I really do think we need to defer to the professionals, and the only decision we need to do is make a decision on costs and budget when time comes, and either veto or approve what they decide they want to do. I think we're trying to do too much. None of us understand it, and we all need to just let the pros do what the pros do. The LNC is not a tech, we're not a tech company. let the tech people do tech, and then we'll move from there. I just,
Thank
it's
you.
frustrating, but I think that's where we need to be.
Mr. Maladon?
I'm just gonna add to that, we just did that with legal stuff, this was the argument for it, we're way out of our depth with certain aspects, and I mean, we as in the royal we, so we need to let the IS committee do the thing that they need to do.
Thank you. Mr. Nana?
Does this do that?
Yes.
I would raise the point that that's what this motion does.
Yes, I agree. Mr. Gopian?
I would argue that we didn't do that with legal. We kept the executive committee in charge of legal. And then I would argue we did do that with Racers Edge. 90% of this room voted with the professionals on Racers Edge. And this is where we ended up. So I just wanted to put that out there. Like, it always sounds good to say, let the professionals say what the professionals say, but that's exactly what we did the first time. And we ended up right here.
Mr. Benner?
I called the question.
Thank you, Mr.
Wait, I
Benner.
had one. I was
did
called on.
Okay, I'm sorry, Madam Secretary?
One other, again, because I do think this is important. The Razor's Edge decision was actually made by the last LNC. We were following the directions of the last LNC. We didn't rescind that. They were supposed to, I read that motion yesterday. There was a whole thing yesterday where I read the motion from the last LNC. With us not being technical people, I do think even not being technical people, or maybe you don't see it as well as I have, that first sentence that city CRM has not proven suitable, I think that's just demonstrably true. All the emails that the chair and I get from states, and I can tell you now, I'm just telling you personally as secretary, why I think I've now just convinced myself into saying I'm gonna be a definite yes. The bylaws put certain responsibilities on the secretary for membership numbers, and I do trust the number staff gives me. But like, this is part of my responsibility, and because the secretary has to be able to rely upon accurate membership numbers, and we have not had that. So if it turns out that some state has some kind of successful challenge, because city has screwed up, guess who's gonna be blamed for it, even though I had nothing to do with counting numbers, and staff isn't to blame for it either, it's the software, it's me. And I'm not willing to put my head on the chopping block for a notable, for something I know from all of the emails I've gotten from, not all state chairs, but from a lot of state chairs, including one just a few days ago, that it's just not working, but I have a point of information, I think it's pretty obvious, but I'd like it on the record. Angela was elected chair. Is this what you want?
Yes, I want us to please, let's just move forward. Thank
I
you.
call the question.
Thank you, Mr. Benner. Any objections to calling the question? Okay, hearing no objections, the question's called. We're gonna go to a vote on the main motion as substituted or adopted.
Okay. Mr. Benner,
Yes.
Mr. Ford,
Yes.
Mr. Hagopian. No. Mr. Heyman,
Yes.
I will vote yes, Ms. Hayes.
Yes.
Mr. Maladon,
Aye.
Mr. Nana.
No.
Mr. Rufo,
Yes.
Mr. Watkins,
Yeehaw.
Ms. Yanuskavich.
Yes. Chair's voting yes.
It is 10-0.
Motion passes. Thank you. Staff is very happy with us.
10-2-0. Extension.
All right, let's see what our next agenda item is. It's the ballot access report by Mr. Nana.
Can I put it on the screen?
Is it in the drive?
It's in there, yeah.
Okay, I can then download it and put it on the screen. 1 second, and put it into the one so that members can see it. Give me 1 sec. Oh, I gotta convert it to PDF. If you wanted to start while I'm doing this, otherwise just give me one moment.
Just wait a couple seconds. There's, the first page is all numbers, so that'll be helpful for you too.
I'm not connected again. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so this is the Ballot Access Committee report. I want to start with some of the numbers here. As last time, in green is a drive that we are either underway with or are anticipating having to start in the very near future. Arkansas completed their drive. Kentucky just started, and I'll go into details later. Maine is underway, etc. If you want to scroll down to page 2, there's a total. So the good news is everything all told, the total ballot access ask, if we want to be sure to get 50 state ballot access, has gone down a very small amount. I have intentionally overestimated because sometimes these things happen with ballot access drives where we end up spending more than we think. And that's noted in the incidentals and overruns beyond what you see in column 2 there. So our new total as of this report is $1,309,000, $9,660. And that would be to pay for everything, including money that was already allocated. So I should probably remove some of the stuff that's already allocated. But either way, that would be our total expenditure, including stuff that we've already sent to states. So if you want to scroll down to the overview, it's the next page. States without access at this time are Alabama, DC, Illinois, Kentucky, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New Mexico, New York, North Dakota, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Virginia, and Washington. The good news is we are underway in several of those states. So this list should get significantly shorter by the next time we have an in-person meeting and I give this report. But that's where we stand as of today. As I said, states in green or where we have or may conduct a drive in the near future. States in red are extremely cost prohibitive or where we don't anticipate having to assist due to a low number of signatures or a commitment from the state that they would be able to handle it on their own. And I did add that to the total in case, but we don't expect to. So I'll go through some of the states here individually. We've met 7 times since I gave this report last in person, and we continue to discuss overall strategy. Arkansas, since the last report, the Arkansas Party has completed their drive successfully, so that's great news. That's 1 down. Kentucky just started their drive this past week. They don't anticipate being able to contribute money based on their desire to pay for a new CRM, which is an extremely unfortunate development. Because we did not really think that we were going to have to pay for this whole drive. But it looks like that's kind of where we're at if we want Kentucky. So that, that drive could cost $40,000, maybe a little bit less if they get the 500 volunteer signatures that they said they think they can get. Maine is doing a voter registration drive. We allocated $7,500 of LNC funds, $5,000 to the state, and $2,500 directly to their coordinator. And they currently have a little bit under 4,000 voter registrations. There was a bill passed that lowered it to 5, so there's a gap of approximately 1,250 or so. They have an internal plan to gather the rest of these. They're not asking for money right now. They had a fundraiser with Bill Redpath and some others where people said that they would donate a certain amount of money, and they think that they're clear at this point. But there is a question of how they can get the money because an individual can only donate up to $5,000 at a time. So there was a discussion of how we can handle that and what that might look like. So we may end up getting some of those donations directly to the national party, and then we would have to individually pay out to the coordinator directly because we can't give any more money to Maine. But that should be a net neutral because anything we get in, we won't be spending beyond that. So we're really on top of this one though, and Bill is very on top of this because the deadline is coming up real soon. And I'm personally concerned, and I think other committee members, but I'll let them speak for themselves, are also concerned that we're going to come up short here. But their chair, Mr. Kemp, has assured us that it's going to get done. So, but right now, what we've asked for is a daily update on registrations in hand, so that we can be real on top of it in case we need to go do emergency action there, which is something that has happened in this state in the past. New Mexico is similar to Kentucky, but for different reasons. We anticipate that we're probably going to need to run the full drive here. Essentially, we have talked to the affiliate a few times. They're so new and they're so cash poor because of that they really don't have volunteers or money to give. Now, thankfully, this is a fairly low signature drive, but again, it's one that we're probably going to have to fully fund. So, you know, as soon as we can start on this, the better, but we kind of need to wait just a little bit longer to make sure that the folks in New Mexico are at least able to manage it from a ground game perspective. Then somebody can be identified to collect signatures and, you know, cut a check if we give them money, what have you. So that's kind of what we're waiting on there, but we want to start that as soon as possible. North Dakota is currently underway. The LNC allocated $17,500 to the affiliate in 5 installments, and the last time I heard, I think we paid out 2. Okay. So they're matching us on this one. So unfortunately, the volunteer effort is minimal, but they're committed to making it work, and we'll make sure we're successful here. Currently, Andy Jacobs, who is on the ballot access committee, is working right now there, and there's another individual in the state. They have roughly 5,500 signatures out of the 7,000 they need right now. That sounds worse than it is, but North Dakota is one of the states up there that everybody's registered to vote as long as they're a citizen and they're 18 years old. So validity should be basically 100%. It won't actually be, but it'll be very close. So really, we need to get to about 7,500, maybe 7,750 to be sure that we'll succeed there. And we've got time on this one, so I think it'll happen. Andy has committed to staying there as long as it takes, even if it gets cold. So we're going to be successful here. It just might take a little longer than we would have liked. Ohio. So the Ohio Party currently has a petition. The drive is underway. The LNC allocated $17,500, and the Ohio Party is matching that as well. The petitioners are already on the ground as of this report, and one more is actually on the way as of this morning. Actually, I got a text from her. So we have currently around 100 or around 1,000 raw signatures, and there's more in the field. I don't know exactly how many are in the field right now, but to my surprise, honestly, quite a few people, more than I thought, have come to say they want to work this drive. So, you know, I'm confident we'll be successful here. We have until August of next year. Obviously, we don't want it to take that long because there's going to be a crunch next year. But, you know, if we have to pause this and come and revisit it later next year after the crunch of other petition drives, we can. Obviously, we don't want to do that. Which takes me to the last state that I'm going to talk about today, which is Tennessee. We, as a committee, recommended $4,000 towards a ballot access lawsuit there, and the state matched those funds. Those funds are all in the hands of the attorney now, and they actually just filed the lawsuit within the last few days, I believe. And I'll keep you guys updated on the progress, but both our attorney and Mr. Redpath and myself are pretty confident that this is a strong case, so hopefully we can get some relief in Tennessee. Next ballot access committee meeting is scheduled for December 12th, and then the rest of this report is just like a comprehensive layout of every state, what it takes, if we can do substitution, et cetera, et cetera. Anybody have any questions? All right. That's it.
Hi, Rodrigo. I don't have any questions right now. I think I would like to see a monthly report on this.
Sure.
And I apologize for putting pressure on you, but because things are changing so much,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I can do that. We can do that. It's probably a good idea. Things are about to start really ramping up, so.
Yeah, just a monthly edit. Does anyone have any questions? We covered some of it yesterday, we just reviewed it.
One quick,
I had a comment.
Yeah.
Mr. Nana, can you comment just briefly, and maybe if you have time, and I say that with a smile because you work so hard, the No Labels Party, what impact is that nationally? Where are they getting their money from? What your thoughts are?
I think we're bordering on political strategy, and if we want to really
Yeah.
talk about it, we need to go into executive session. I'm happy to do so, but
think
it might be important for folks to hear, or you can just ask me at dinner.
I thought have we discussed this a little bit with another campaign? I mean, it's essentially the same.
Well, I keep hearing new stuff pretty much daily about
Same.
no labels, so it's kind of hard to keep track of. Here's what I'll say outside of executive session. That's not a secret to anybody. The No Labels Party movement, whatever the heck they are, is flush with cash, and they are aggressively going after ballot access in every single state. I haven't seen it come out of Ohio, but I'm told that they filed in Ohio. I don't know why. I haven't heard anything from the Secretary of State, but we assume that they filed there. They actually just pulled out of California here not too long ago, according to Mr. Jacobs. Mr. Ford was just telling me earlier, that was them, right? That you saw petitioning
In Rhode
in Rhode Island as well. So, I mean, they're everywhere. I mean, they're full court press everywhere. I think, if any good comes out of it, it might be that they're going to realize how hard this is in some states and sue. And we might actually want to join them on some lawsuits, but we'll have to see how that plays out. But, it's obviously, who knows if they're even going to run a candidate?
I'm not confident that they're gonna get 50 state back.
I don't think, there's no way they're going to get 50. I mean, they gave up on California. I don't see them getting New York. So.
Mr. Hodokian?
Yeah, I just want to put out for everybody, like, as we make these tough ballot access decisions, some of the things that the committee's going to have to, in my opinion, they can decide for themselves, have to consider is how much money the state itself is putting in, how many signatures the state itself is volunteering to get themselves, what other parties are campaigning and petitioning at the same time, because that affects cost per signature, and whether or not we can join in any of those parties to do total signatures.
Yeah.
All of that stuff is going to matter. So I'm speaking directly to the states. If a state comes to us and says you can't get any volunteer signatures, you can't bring anybody to the table, and go labels an RFK or petitioning in your state, and we have 3 states, and 3 states left, and 2 states are gonna get funded, you're going to be in trouble. So you need to work with your ex-con and figure out how you can put money towards ballot access, and that's a state activity that we are willing to help you with. But it's not our responsibility to fully fund your state if you're not bringing anything to the table, in my opinion.
Let me speak to the states. I will have a conversation with you, and I will work with you to help overcome obstacles, strategize with you. And I want us to have 50 state ballot access. I want to support you, and I think that we can do it. And some of you have been run down, you've had drama with past administrations, you have legal obstacles, you're discouraged, and I totally hear you. And I want you to know that I'm here for you, and I'm gonna work with you, and I'll do heaven and earth to make it happen. So we don't have promises, but the energy and the spirit is there for me, and I'm the one driving the ship. So we're gonna do it if we'll all put together. Secretary?
I'm confident that the chair will work with the state chairs. And in some ways on these committees, it's a little bit of, you have to play a little bit of good cop, bad cop. And I do believe that Angela's going to be the extremely good cop in this. I echo Mr. Hodokian's statements that if it comes down to a tough choice, and I hope it doesn't on any state, if there's a particular state that is not contributing, it is the state's primary responsibility to get their ballot access. It is not the LNC's job to do so. So I hope that it doesn't matter, that we're just able to do it all, but if the choice has to come down between a state that's not going to contribute anything that's a mature state. And the reason why I keep saying that is I'm exempting New Mexico from this because they're brand new. But they're really eager to get volunteer signatures. I think they're overestimating their ability to get volunteer signatures, but I actually like the eagerness. The problem more with New Mexico, the dollar amount is lower, and they now have people eager to get signatures, because there's a lack of petitioners. Like, even if we had, say we had the $30,000 check right now from New Mexico, I don't know who we would send there.
I could think of at least one person, but you know, you're not wrong.
Can we get the energy up in this room? It's like,
Yeah.
Whitney Houston said, "I'm every woman, it's all on me, it's all on me." Here I am. So, let's get some vibes up in here.
And if
Mr.
you want to.
Well, here's one thing I want to say. I want to disagree slightly with what the secretary said. It is not our job to get statewide ballot access. It is absolutely our job to make sure our presidential candidate appears either as an independent or a libertarian on all 50 ballots, plus DC. That is our job, or that is one of the most critical functions of the LNC. And, you know, but again, as Mr. Hagopian said, you know, we have to work with the framework that we're given, and, you know, if it comes down to it, which I'm confident it won't, I actually think we're going to do a bang up job, and we're going to get 50 state ballot access.
There you go.
Because that's what we do. We've done it 2 times in a row, and we're going to do it again. But, you know, that's just something to have in mind. You know, if you're a state and we're not telling you to write us a huge check. We're just saying, try. That's it. You can't say, well, we're not doing anything. You got to try.
Traditionally, Rhode Island is the last state to be allowed to petition and the last state to get it. All right, so I just want to thank you all in advance for all your concern calls that I get every 4 years asking me. I anticipate it, and once again, Rhode Island at the very last moment will become a 50
I know,
state.
already asked, how was Rhode Island? And Mr. Ford said, I think we're gonna do it.
We actually, the last go around, we had a record number of volunteer petitioning. Most we've ever had, and couldn't quite do it on our own. And I want to thank the party for stepping in, giving us resources, but hell, we're going to get as close as we can on our own.
One last thing, sorry, I forgot to mention it. We sent out, and thank you to Luke for helping put it together. We sent out an email requesting folks to help get signatures in the states that are underway right now and that might be underway soon. And we're actually going to pay Libertarian Party members to go petition. So if you're listening to this, if you haven't seen that email, if you know somebody that wants to help out, you can get paid for it. And, you know, it would be a huge help with the shortage of petitioners that we're seeing right now. So
And we are going to expand on the marketing for that a little bit. Just
good.
Mr. Troxel, our staffer.
I just want to expand on that for just 2 seconds, just for the audience who's listening to this. The thing is that we're going to have to spend this money one way or another. I'd rather this money go into the hands of libertarians so that we can see people go out there and make liberty prosper and actually be able to make some money while doing so. And it's 70% cost savings compared to what we would have to pay for a professional petitioner. I'm a big fan of putting money towards the causes that matter. And in this case, I love that we have volunteers who will do this for free, but I also understand, and I think we've learned this throughout this LNC's process, is that we cannot rely on simply using volunteers for critical functions of the party, and ballot access is a critical function. So we have a cost-saving mechanism, and we have the power to put libertarians, our money in libertarians' pockets instead of someone else. Then I would highly encourage people who want to support this effort to donate to the party so that we can make that happen. And for people who are willing to do the work, and then, you know, we're going to be able to cover $3 a signature, and that's a raw signature. That's not a verified signature. Is that correct, Mr. Nava?
I believe that's what we landed on.
Yes. Yep. And so the thing is that if you go out and collect 100 signatures a day, you're making $300 a pop. So for those who are motivated to work, you can make a pretty decent paycheck going out and collecting signatures for the party. So that's all I got.
Okay, thank you. If there's no other questions, we're going to jump to our next agenda item. And our next item, are you going to strike that?
Yeah, no, the chair, it's premature, so I'm moving to strike discussing the anti-war rally, the questions I'll have with the chair, it's not something that needs to be done in minutes of the meeting.
All right, any objections to striking that from the agenda? We'll revisit it in January. Go once, go twice, I'll second it. Hearing none. Okay, stricken. Next up, we have goals. Portions may be in executive session. Okay, so before we get into executive session, when I said goals broadly, I think we should we've discussed our fundraising goals quite a bit already. I think we should talk about our membership goals. Are there other goals that people are interested in hearing about? I think we've heard about sort of messaging strategy and that sort of, could or could not be construed as a goal from our communications PR guy. Any other goals? We just talked about ballot access.
Madam Chair, I have to apologize, I have to check now.
Yep. This is not going to be a 60-minute conversation. We want to stand at these for 10 minutes and then we'll do goals. All right. Coffee, there's still coffee in the back of the room for those of you who are half asleep. Could we have someone mute the owl while we're at ease?
And actually meet at this time.
Wait, do you want to mute it or do you want to end the stream?
Kudos to Mr. Hagopian for preventing it from getting canceled.
And I apologize to our guests, but we're going to need to go into executive session to discuss some goals and contracts.
That's cool. We got cakes.
Please enjoy cake out in the hallway. There are very comfortable seats in the lobby. Madam Secretary?
There was an item from the agenda that I was going to strike. And if you didn't want it, can we move to go into executive session to combine those two so if anyone wants, so we don't come back out and then go back in and people want it. If they don't, we just want to.
So I'm gonna move to go into executive session to discuss political strategy and specifically regarding goals for membership. Our discussion may include contracts, which is why I'm doing it in an executive session, and also legal updates.
Second.
I was just gonna ask,
Political strategy.
Yes.
who are we keeping in the room other than the?
And we're gonna keep staff in the room, because they're gonna be part of our discussion. Yes. Good question? No?
Did Arthur sign the NDA?
He doesn't.
Yeah,
Then-
staff and contractors are fine with me. I need
So-
their input.
I can go ahead and end stream.
Yeah, well, in the stream. It's been moved and seconded by Nicole.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, any objection?